The unconventional arrival. The command center of orbital station Asteria hummed with the precise efficiency that had made the Varaxian Galactic Defense Fleet legendary. Admiral Zorax stood with his four arms clasped behind his back, his crystalline exoskeleton shimmering under the blue-white lights as he surveyed the holographic battle simulations. The latest engagement with the Krell swarm had cost them 3 squadrons and a defense platform. The Krell assault patterns have evolved again, Fleet Tactician Nyx announced, her voice carrying the melodic undertones characteristic of her species. Our predictive algorithms are now operating at only 62% efficiency. Zorax's inner eyelids flickered in frustration. The Krell, a hive-minded species of biomechanical entities, had been pushing deeper into Varaxian territory for the past 7 stellar cycles. What the Krell lacked in individual intelligence, they made up for with overwhelming numbers and an uncanny ability to adapt to Varaxian tactics. And the Council still refuses our request for additional quantum calculators, Zorax said. They believe our current computational resources should be sufficient. A soft alert chimed through the command center, and Tactician Nyx tilted her head toward the incoming transmission. Admiral, the human liaison vessel has arrived. They're requesting docking clearance. The human. Zorax didn't bother hiding the skepticism in his voice. Have Lieutenant Commander Vrax escort our guest to the command center when they arrive. The Galactic Confederation had suggested, rather forcefully, that the Varaxians accept human assistance in their conflict with the Krell. Humans were newcomers to interstellar politics, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 3 decades earlier. Yet somehow they had gained influence within the Confederation disproportionate to their technological development. What could a species that still relies on manual piloting possibly teach us? Nyx asked, echoing Zorax's thoughts. Politics, Zorax replied simply. We will endure this diplomatic exercise and send the human back with our gratitude. The Confederation will be appeased, and we can continue our war effort without further interference. 20 minutes later, Lieutenant Commander Vrax arrived with the human in tow. Zorax had reviewed the human's file. Captain Maya Santos, decorated pilot from the United Earth Defense Force. The file had noted her unusual combat record, but Zorax had dismissed it as human exaggeration. The human who walked into his command center was shorter than he had expected, with dark skin and curly black hair pulled back in what he recognized as a ponytail. Her flight suit was covered in colorful patches, a practice the Varaxians found unnecessarily distracting, and she moved with a casual confidence that bordered on disrespect. Admiral Zorax, she said with a smile, extending a hand. Captain Maya Santos, thanks for having me aboard. After a moment's hesitation, Zorax extended one of his lower arms to complete the human greeting ritual. Captain Santos, the Confederation speaks highly of your piloting abilities. Just Maya is fine, she replied, already looking past him at the holographic battle simulations. These the Krell formations you've been dealing with. Without waiting for permission, she stepped toward the holographic display, hands moving through the projection to manipulate the view. Zorax noticed Nyx's posture stiffen at this breach of protocol. Interesting, Maya murmured. They're using semi-random pattern shifts with an underlying fractal structure. I've seen something similar from the Archean swarms in the Ta City system. Our analysis algorithms have already identified all viable counterformations, Nyx stated coldly. Maya tilted her head, studying the simulations from different angles. Sure, but algorithms think linearly, even quantum ones. The Krell don't. She pointed to a particular formation. See here, this isn't just tactical, it's reactive. They're anticipating your responses based on your previous encounters. That is precisely why we employ predictive computations to determine optimal flight paths and firing solutions, Zorax explained, his patience already wearing thin. Our pilots execute these solutions with precision unmatched in the galaxy. Maya nodded absently. Your pilots fly by numbers. That's the problem. The command center fell silent, Even the junior officers paused in their duties to stare at the human. "Explain," Zorax demanded, his inner eyelids narrowing to slits. "No disrespect to your methods, Admiral," Maya said, apparently oblivious to the tension she had created. "The Varaxian approach to space combat is impressive, mathematically perfect, but that's exactly what the Krell have adapted to counter. They've essentially hacked your combat algorithms." "And what would you suggest instead?" Nix asked with barely concealed disdain. "Unpredictability. Intuition. Flying by gut instead of by numbers." Maya turned to face Zorax directly. "Humans don't have your computational abilities or your precision, but we have something the Krell can't adapt to: creative improvisation." Zorax studied the human for a long moment. The suggestion was so contrary to Varaxian combat philosophy that he was tempted to dismiss it outright. Yet the Confederation had insisted this human had valuable insights. "Perhaps a demonstration would be more convincing than a discussion," he finally said. "Tactician Nix, arrange for Captain Santos to participate in a combat simulation with Talon Squadron." "Thank you, Admiral," Maya said with a smile that seemed almost predatory. "But I'd prefer to fly one of your actual fighters, not a simulation, if that's possible." "Our N7 Starstrikers are neurally linked to their pilots," Nix objected. "They're calibrated specifically to Varaxian thought patterns and reaction times." "I'm a quick study," Maya replied confidently, "and I've flown adaptive interfaces before. The Varaxian bioships are particularly challenging. They actually try to reject non-Varaxian pilots." Zorax considered the request. It was unprecedented to allow an alien to pilot a Varaxian military vessel, especially one as advanced as a Starstriker. Yet if this exercise would satisfy the Confederation's requirement. "Very well, Captain. You will be provided with a Starstriker for a demonstration flight. But be warned, our craft are not designed for human neural architecture. The interface may be uncomfortable." Maya's smile widened. "I appreciate the opportunity, Admiral. When can we start?" 4 hours later, Zorax stood in the observation deck overlooking the fighter launch bays, watching as Maya was briefed by Flight Commander Traz. The human appeared remarkably at ease as she examined the sleek, crystalline hull of the N7 Starstriker assigned to her. "The neural interface will establish a partial link to your consciousness," Traz was explaining. "For Varaxian pilots, this creates a seamless integration with the craft's systems. For a human, well, we don't have data on that." "I'll manage," Maya assured him, running her hand along the fighter's translucent hull. "Beautiful machine. Quantum entangled reaction system." "Yes," Traz replied, surprise evident in his voice. "How did you?" "The field harmonics," Maya said. "Similar to what we're developing back home, just more advanced." The pre-flight checks were completed with unexpected efficiency, and soon Maya was climbing into the cockpit. The crystalline canopy flowed closed around her, its structure reshaping to accommodate her human form. Neural interface initializing. Came the calm voice of the flight controller over the comm. "Captain Santos, you may experience discomfort as the system attempts to establish connection." Zorax watched intently as the fighter systems engage. He had half expected the neural interface to reject the human entirely, which would have provided a convenient end to this exercise. Connection established. The controller announced with obvious surprise. "Calibration at 73% efficiency. That's unprecedented for a non-Varaxian pilot." Maya's voice came through the comm, sounding slightly strained but steady. "Feels like pins and needles in my brain, but I'm good to go. Request permission for launch." "Permission granted," Zorax responded. "Maintain position within designated testing zone Alpha until acclimated to the controls." The Starstriker lifted smoothly from the deck, its propulsion field creating a subtle distortion in the air as it hovered momentarily before gliding toward the station's energy barriers. As it passed through the barrier into open space, Zorax turned his attention to the tactical display showing the testing zone. For the first few minutes, the human pilot made only basic maneuvers, standard turns, acceleration and deceleration tests, simple rolls. Zorax was beginning to think his skepticism had been justified when the Star Striker suddenly executed a series of maneuvers that made even the veteran flight controllers gasp. The fighter dove into a tight spiral, then abruptly reversed direction in what should have been an impossible vector change. It followed with a corkscrew pattern that utilized the craft's inertial compensators in ways Varaxian pilots never attempted. "What is she doing?" Nyx demanded, her voice tight with both concern and fascination. "Those maneuvers aren't in any of our tactical databases. She's flying by instinct," Traz murmured, studying the telemetry data with growing interest. "The neural interface is following her intent rather than her calculated commands." The demonstration continued for another 10 minutes, with Maya pushing the Star Striker through increasingly complex and unorthodox maneuvers. The flight controller's initial alarm had given way to professional curiosity as they analyzed telemetry that defied their standard protocols. Zorax was about to order the conclusion of the exercise when multiple alerts suddenly blared throughout the command center. "Proximity alert," the tactical officer announced. "Unidentified craft emerging from hyperspace. Patterns mesh Krell signatures." "How many?" Zorax demanded, already moving toward the main tactical station. "Initial count shows 37 vessels, with more signatures emerging. They're on an attack vector." "Battle stations," Zorax ordered, his mind rapidly calculating response options. "Launch all available squadrons. Activate station defense systems." As chaos erupted around him, Zorax found his gaze returning to the tactical display showing Captain Santos's fighter, now positioned directly between the station and the approaching Krell swarm. "Captain Santos," he transmitted, "return to the station immediately. This is not a drill or demonstration." Maya's response came back instantly, her voice now focused and sharp. "With respect, Admiral, I'm already in position to engage, and I think it's time to show you what I was talking about." Before Zorax could object, the human pilot had turned her Star Striker directly toward the oncoming Krell vessels, accelerating at a rate that would have incapacitated a Varaxian pilot. "What is she doing?" Nyx whispered beside him. "I believe," Zorax replied slowly, "we are about to find out what the Confederation saw in human pilots. The battle that changed everything. All squadrons, maintain formation, and follow tactical protocols." Fleet Commander Vrex ordered as the Varaxian fighters launched in perfect synchronized waves. "Execute counter pattern Sigma 7. Admiral Zorax watched the tactical display with growing concern. The Krell had never attacked this close to a major Varaxian station before. This wasn't their usual behavior pattern. It was bold, aggressive, and disturbingly well-timed. "They knew we were conducting tests," Tactician Nyx said, voicing his thoughts. "They're using our diverted attention to their advantage." In the midst of the Varaxian fighter formation, Maya's stolen Star Striker stood out immediately, not just as a single point moving against the orchestrated patterns of the squadron, but moving in ways that made no tactical sense. "Captain Santos," Zorax transmitted urgently, "fall back and integrate with Talon Squadron's defense pattern." "Respectfully declining, Admiral," Maya replied, her voice now carrying the focused intensity Zorax had heard in the most elite Varaxian pilots. "Your formations are exactly what they're expecting. Watch this instead." The human suddenly accelerated her Star Striker directly toward the center mass of the Krell formation, a suicidal move by all Varaxian combat doctrines. The tactical computers quickly calculated her survival probability at less than 12%. "What is she doing?" Nyx hissed, hands hovering over the controls to override Maya's fighter remotely. "Wait," Zorax ordered, something in the human's confidence giving him pause. As Maya's fighter closed with the Krell vanguard, it began a series of maneuvers that defied the station's predictive algorithms. The Star Striker wove through the Krell formation in impossible patterns, skimming within meters of enemy vessels, executing hairpin turns that should have overwhelmed even the advanced inertial compensators, and firing in seemingly random bursts that nonetheless struck critical systems on Krell vessels. This is... Nick struggled to find the words. This is not possible. But it was happening before their eyes. The Krell, programmed to counter the mathematical precision of Varaxian tactics, were failing to adapt to the humans' unpredictable style. Their formation began to fragment as individual units broke pattern to pursue Maya's fighter, only to find themselves exposed to her counterattacks. All squadrons, this is Admiral Zorax, he transmitted after a moment of decision. Observe Captain Santos's engagement pattern. Tactical computers, analyze and incorporate. Admiral, Flight Commander Traz objected. Our pilots cannot replicate those maneuvers without proper computational models. Then let them watch and learn, Zorax replied. Captain Santos is demonstrating something our algorithms have failed to capture. On the tactical display, the situation was evolving rapidly. Maya had destroyed 7 Krell vessels and damaged at least a dozen more, but the main Krell formation was regrouping, adapting to her tactics now that they had observed them. They're learning, Nix warned. The Krell collective intelligence is analyzing her patterns. Captain Santos, Zorax transmitted. The Krell are adapting to your approach. Maya's laugh came through the comm, surprising everyone in the command center. That's the thing about human pilots, Admiral. We don't repeat ourselves. The Star Striker abruptly changed tactics, no longer weaving through the Krell formation, but instead executing a series of high-speed passes from constantly shifting vectors. Each pass seemed to target specific Krell vessels, not the obvious threats at the formation's edge, but units buried deeper within their defensive structure. She's targeting their command nodes, Nix realized, her analytical mind finally recognizing the pattern beneath Maya's apparent chaos. How did she identify them? Even our advanced sensors struggle to differentiate Krell command nodes from standard units. I don't think she's using sensors, Traz said slowly. I think she's feeling it. Impossible, one of the junior officers muttered. But the results were undeniable. With each pass, the Krell formation became increasingly disorganized. Without their command nodes, the remaining vessels fell back on more primitive attack patterns that the Varaxian squadrons could counter effectively. Talon Squadron, this is Captain Santos. Maya transmitted suddenly. I'm opening a gap in their right flank. Be ready to exploit on my mark. Flight Commander Traz hesitated, looking to Zorax for confirmation. After a brief moment, Zorax nodded. Talon Squadron acknowledges, Traz responded. Standing by. Maya's Star Striker accelerated to maximum velocity, cutting across the Krell formation at an angle that drew multiple pursuit vessels away from their stations. As they followed, a gap appeared in the Krell defensive screen, exactly as she had predicted. Now, Maya called. Talon Squadron moved with characteristic Varaxian precision, pouring through the gap and unleashing a devastating volley against the exposed Krell rear echelon. For the first time in the battle, Zorax allowed himself to feel a flicker of hope. But the Krell weren't finished. A second wave of vessels emerged from hyperspace, smaller, faster craft that Zorax recognized as their elite hunter-killers. New Krell signatures detected. The tactical officer announced unnecessarily. They're targeting our squadrons, and priority target designation on Captain Santos's fighter. They've identified her as the primary threat, Nix said, genuine concern in her voice now. Admiral, the human pilot cannot survive against hunter-killers. Even our best would struggle. Zorax opened a channel. Captain Santos, return to the station immediately. We'll provide cover fire. Little busy right now, Admiral, Maya replied, her voice tight as her fighter corkscrewed through a field of Krell energy weapons. But I've got an idea. These hunter-killers, they're linked more closely to the hive mind, right? Correct, Nix confirmed. They receive priority instructions and computational resources. Perfect, Maya said. Then they're my ticket to shutting this whole attack down. I need a distraction, though. Can your Phantom Squadron create a sensor shadow near the station's magnetic north pole? Zorax didn't hesitate this time. Phantom Squadron, execute maneuver as requested. All other units provide supporting fire. What followed was a display of piloting that would later be studied in Varaxian flight academies for generations. Maya led the hunter-killers on a complex chase through the debris of already destroyed vessels, using the wreckage to mask her signature at critical moments and causing several hunters to collide with each other. She then abruptly reversed course and dove directly toward the station, specifically toward the magnetic distortion being generated by Phantom Squadron. As she approached, she transmitted again. Admiral, I need Station Defense Grid Sector 7 powered down for exactly 12 seconds on my mark. It was an outrageous request. Powering down any section of the defense grid during an attack violated every Varaxian security protocol. But Zorax had seen enough. Defense Control, prepare to execute on Captain Santos' mark. Maya's Star Striker screamed toward the station, the hunter-killers in close pursuit. At the last possible moment, she called out, "Mark." The defense grid in Sector 7 went dark. Maya's fighter skimmed the station's hull with barely meters to spare, then looped around an antenna array in a maneuver that subjected her to forces that should have rendered a pilot unconscious. The pursuing hunter-killers, attempting to follow, found themselves suddenly caught in the reactivated defense grid as it powered back up precisely 12 seconds later. 5 hunter-killers were instantly destroyed, their debris creating a chain reaction that disabled 3 more. "Brilliant," Nyx whispered, the first genuine admiration Zorax had ever heard in her voice. But Maya wasn't finished. With the hunter-killer force diminished, she turned her Star Striker back toward the main Krell formation, which was now fully engaged with the Varaxian squadrons. "Admiral," she transmitted, "I've identified what I think is their primary control vessel. If we can take it out, the entire swarm should be disrupted." "How can you be certain?" Zorax demanded. "Our analysis shows no clear command structure." "Trust me," Maya replied simply. "I can feel it. It's the one they're protecting most aggressively, not with their strongest units, but with their most coordinated defensive patterns." Zorax studied the tactical display. The vessel Maya had identified appeared unremarkable compared to the larger Krell ships, but her instincts had proven correct thus far. "All squadrons, focus fire on designated target," he ordered. "Create an approach vector for Captain Santos." The Varaxian fighters executed the order with their characteristic precision, creating a momentary corridor through the Krell defenses. Maya's Star Striker accelerated down this path, weapon systems charging to maximum. "There's a structural weakness where their propulsion system connects to the main hull," she transmitted. "Targeting now." The Star Striker fired a concentrated burst at precisely the point Maya had identified. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Krell vessel erupted in a cascade of explosions that rippled along its hull. "Direct hit on unknown critical system," the tactical officer reported, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. Throughout the command center, officers watched in amazement as the effect spread throughout the Krell formation. Ships began to move erratically, their coordinated defense falling apart as they lost connection to their controlling intelligence. "All squadrons, press the advantage," Zorax ordered. "Neutralize remaining threats." The battle's outcome was no longer in doubt. Without their coordinated tactics, the remaining Krell vessels were quickly dispatched by the Varaxian fighters. As the final enemy signatures disappeared from the tactical display, a strange silence fell over the command center. It was Tactician Nyx who finally broke it. "Admiral, Captain Santos's fighter is showing critical system failures. The neural interface is destabilizing." Zorax immediately opened a channel. "Captain Santos, return to the station immediately." "Working on it," Maya replied, her voice strained. "The interface is getting a bit intense. Might need a tow." "Talon leader, escort Captain Santos's fighter back to the station," Zorax ordered. "Medical teams, Prepare for potential neural interface exposure. As the Star Striker was guided back to the docking bay, supported by two Varaxian fighters, Zorax turned to Nyx. Prepare a complete analysis of this engagement. I want every detail of Captain Santos' tactics documented. Yes, Admiral, Nyx replied. Though I doubt our algorithms can fully capture what we witnessed. No, Zorax agreed. I believe that is precisely the point the Confederation was trying to make. When Maya was finally helped from the cockpit of the Star Striker, she could barely stand. The neural interface had taken a toll that would have incapacitated most pilots, yet she still managed a weak smile as medical technicians rushed to stabilize her. Worth it, she murmured as Zorax approached. Did we get them all? The Krell have been repelled, Zorax confirmed, thanks in large part to your unconventional tactics. Just flying by feel, Maya said, wincing as the medical technicians worked to disconnect the residual neural links. Your ships are amazing, by the way, respond almost like they're alive. They are designed to be extensions of our consciousness, Zorax explained. Though never before has a non-Varaxian managed to establish such an effective connection. Maya's expression grew more serious. The Krell will be back, you know, and they'll have adapted to what I did today. Yes, Zorax acknowledged, which is why I will be requesting that the Confederation send us more human pilots and that you remain to instruct our squadrons in your methods. Maya raised an eyebrow. You want Varaxians to learn to fly by gut feeling. I thought your whole thing was precision and calculation. Today has demonstrated that there is value in both approaches, Zorax replied. Precision without intuition becomes predictable. Intuition without precision becomes reckless. Perhaps together, they become something greater than either alone. As the medical team prepared to transport Maya to the medical bay, Zorax did something unprecedented for a Varaxian admiral. He extended all four of his arms in the traditional gesture of profound respect. The Varaxian Defense Fleet owes you a debt, Captain Santos. When you have recovered, I would be honored to discuss how humans and Varaxians might learn from each other. Maya managed a weak salute in return. Looking forward to it, Admiral. Just promise me one thing. Next time, I get to fly without the killer headache afterward. Our engineers are already working on modifications to the neural interface, Zorax assured her, though I suspect no amount of modification will fully accommodate the uniqueness of human intuition. As Maya was taken to the medical bay, Zorax returned to the command center, where the staff was still analyzing the battle data. Flight Commander Traz approached with a data pad. Admiral, we've begun preliminary analysis of Captain Santos' flight patterns, he reported. Our tactical computers are struggling to identify the underlying logic, but there are patterns within the chaos, patterns we might be able to learn. Good, Zorax said. Establish a new training protocol. I want our best pilots to begin studying these techniques immediately. And the Council, Admiral? Nyx asked quietly. They will question this deviation from established doctrine. Zorax gazed out at the stars beyond the station, contemplating the implications of what they had witnessed today. The doctrine evolves, Tactician Nyx, as must we all. He turned back to his staff, his inner eyelids opening fully in a rare display of complete certainty. Today, a single human pilot accomplished what our squadrons could not. Not because she was superior, but because she was different. That difference may be what saves us all. Throughout the command center, Varaxian officers nodded in solemn agreement. The battle against the Krell had changed today, and so had they.